For decades, the story of Japanese business and culture abroad, it was all about expansion. More people living overseas year after year.
Yeah, that was the norm, wasn't it? A steady upward climb. You just sort of assumed it would keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially in the big global hubs. But lately, well, something shifted. That long-standing trend, it's flipped completely.
Hmm.
So today we're doing a deep dive into what some research calls the shifting sands of the Japanese expatriate population. We're seeing this really noticeable decline, particularly across places like Southeast Asia and North America too.
And at the same time, this major trend of homecoming, people heading back to Japan.
Right. So, okay, let's unpack this. We're going to explore that mix of things that are driving at corporate moves, economic pressures, personal priorities.
And figure out what it all means, really, for global business, for those expat communities in Asia Pacific.
It really is quite a turnaround. To get the scale of it, you have to look back a bit.
Definitely. I mean, before 2019, you had something like 30 years of almost nonstop growth in the overseas Japanese population.
30 years. Wow.
Yeah. But the sources we looked at, they make it pretty clear that the events of the last few years, the pandemic, obviously, and rising inflation, they were a real turning point.
An inflection point, as they say.
Exactly. The growth stopped, it reversed, and now we're seeing this significant pullback. It's a major demographic shift. Seems like more than just a temporary blip.
And we're not talking small numbers here, are we?
No, not at all. We've seen clear evidence, actual numbers showing big drops in those traditional expat centers. Think Shanghai cost soaring, movement restricted.
Right.
And New York, too, both showing noticeable decreases in Japanese residents.
And focusing closer to home here in Asia, you can really see this repatriation trend playing out.
Oh, absolutely. Several Southeast Asian countries, Thailand comes to mind, Singapore too, they've seen a definite drop in their Japanese expat numbers.
Which is interesting because for years you had all those professionals on long assignments, right?
Yeah.
Relying on that whole support system, service departments, company housing.
The infrastructure was built around them.
But the number of people using that infrastructure is now shrinking. You can see it.
That's the picture the data paints, yes. But it's also important to look at the nuances because it's not quite a simple story.
Okay.
Well, while the overall global trend is repatriation, especially away from those expensive established hubs, it's not like a universal retreat.
Ah, okay.
Our analysis actually shows some specific regions, particularly parts of Africa and the Middle East, have seen a small increase in Japanese residents.
Really? So what does that tell us?
It tells us the movement is targeted. It seems less like a general everyone go home signal and more like a strategic reshuffling, driven by specific company needs, new market opportunities perhaps.
Okay, so that's the where and the when. Let's tackle the why. And it sounds like a big piece starts in the corporate world, right? In the strategy meetings.
Absolutely. The sources really highlight this huge evolution in corporate thinking. The pandemic might have sped it up, but it's been brewing for a while.
This idea of sending Japanese expats out to run everything, that's changing.
Fundamentally, that traditional model HQ sends someone out, they manage the local operation, maintain control, it's being seriously reevaluated for efficiency, for cost effectiveness.
So what's the new priority then?
It's shifting towards what the industry calls hyperlocalization, basically getting the best possible connection with diverse, fast-moving regional markets.
Hyperlocalization. Okay, what does that look like in practice?
Yeah.
It's more than just hiring local staff, I assume.
Oh, much more. We're talking about giving local managers real autonomy, letting them handle the P&L, make decisions about product development tailored specifically for their market.
Right, so finding managers who really get the local scene.
Exactly. People with that deep, almost intuitive understanding of consumer tastes, the regulatory landscape, how distribution works on the ground. It means you can react faster, be more relevant, instead of waiting for decisions from Tokyo.
That push for local talent makes a lot of strategic sense. But I wonder, if you reduce the number of expats so much, purely for cost or local expertise, do you risk losing something? Like diluting the company culture, or maybe slowing down how knowledge flows back to headquarters.
That's the critical balancing act. It's a definite risk, the research points out. Companies are trying to manage it, maybe with shorter, more focused assignments instead of multi-year postings.
Where more reliance on tech for communication.
Yes, much more reliance on technology, but the cost saving is undeniable. Think about a typical expat package. You've got tax equalization, international school fees, housing allowances.
It adds up fast.
It can easily cost 2 or 3 times the salary of hiring a local manager with similar skills. That basic math makes localization incredibly compelling, especially in competitive markets. It's almost an economic necessity now.
So that corporate calculation is one major force. But it's not just top-down decisions, right? There are powerful economic and personal reasons pulling individuals and families back home, too.
Absolutely. And the financial squeeze is probably the most immediate personal driver.
Rising cost of living.
Exactly. Costs in many of those traditional host countries, think Singapore, Sydney, even parts of Bangkok are shooting up.
Ah.
But then you layer on top of that a relatively weak yen for the past few years. And suddenly the whole financial advantage of being overseas just kind of evaporates.
Can you break down how the weak yen hits an expat's wallet?
Sure. So typically, Japanese staff on assignment get paid based on their home salary scale, right? In yen.
Right.
When that yen salary gets converted into increasingly expensive local currencies, US dollars, Thai baht, whatever it is, your actual purchasing power just shrinks dramatically.
So the stipend that was meant to be a bonus.
Precisely. Historically, that assignment allowance was a big perk. But now, with the cost of housing, international schools, just daily life, many expat families find they're actually losing money, or maybe just breaking even.
Wow. So the financial incentive that defined that career path for so long, it's just gone.
For many, yes, it's simply not there anymore.
And it's not just the money, is it? There are personal, logistical things pulling people back.
Especially around family.
Oh, definitely. The sources mention the real challenges for dual-income couples with these overseas postings.
How so?
Well, it can be a logistical nightmare. Often the spouse's visa has work restrictions, or they need complex recertifications to continue their career. It's incredibly difficult. Plus, companies often put families in specific, expensive corporate housing, which might be nowhere near job opportunities for the spouse. So repatriation starts looking attractive not just financially, but for simpler logistics, for professional continuity, for the whole family.
And I guess there's also just the emotional side, wanting to be closer to home.
Especially after the pandemic, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That desire to be near family, aging parents, familiar support networks, it plays a big role. Combine that feeling with the changing global economy and this shift towards localization and careers.
And then returning to Japan starts to look like the most stable, sensible option for many. Exactly. Now, even with this big wave of people returning, the research shows a particular group is staying, especially in some of those Southeast Asian hubs.
Oh, who's staying behind?
It tends to be an older, more established group, and often significantly wealthier. These aren't usually the corporate folks on a 5-year rotation. They might be entrepreneurs, independent residents, maybe retirees who've chosen to settle long term.
Okay, so the profile of the remaining community is changing.
Dramatically. And that means businesses serving them have to adapt too. Financial institutions, for instance.
How are they adapting?
They're shifting their services to cater specifically to this high net worth group. We saw a clear example. Daiwa Securities setting up new offices in Thailand precisely to target the wealth management needs of these affluent residents.
That makes sense. So fewer people overall, but those who remain have different, perhaps more complex financial needs.
Right. It signals a need for specialized support. Things like multi-jurisdictional tax planning, complex retirement advice. It's becoming about quality of service over sheer quantity of clients.
And this focus on quality and specific needs probably extends to how the professionals who are still traveling operate too. Even if multi-year posts are down, there's still business travel, shorter projects.
Absolutely. Those short-term assignments, extended stays, they're still vital for many regional operations needing people on the ground.
So for those individuals, finding a good place to live and work efficiently while they're abroad is crucial.
There really is. Especially if you're there for more than just a few days. The demand now is for flexible, fully equipped environments. We're seeing that corresponding interest in high-quality, extended stay options, serviced apartments, maybe serviced offices too.
Right, places designed for professionals, for teams who need a solid base in cities across Asia Pacific while they're on these targeted missions.
Exactly. It points away from those old, expensive long-term corporate leases towards more agile solutions that fit these shorter, high-value assignments.
Okay. And even with all these changes, fewer long-termers, different corporate approaches. What about the community itself, the social fabric?
That seems to remain incredibly important. The sources stress how strong those community bonds are. These social networks provide absolutely vital support, helping people navigate new cultures, maintaining that sense of connection.
Yeah, I saw a great example of that, things like the annual Asian-Japanese Rugby Cup.
Precisely. Activities like that connect expats with the local Japanese community across the region as a crucial social and cultural outlet. For those who do stay, having that strong community and a secure base is more essential than ever, really, for work and for well-being.
So putting it all together, what's the big picture takeaway here?
Well, it really feels like we're seeing the end of an era. That traditional multi-year expat family posting that kind of defined global business expansion for so long, it seems to be fading.
In a community that remains is different.
Smaller, yes,
Yeah.
but also, on average, more affluent and much more targeted in its needs. It requires specialized support from finance right through to housing.
Okay, so recapping the main drivers.
It really boils down to two key forces, doesn't it? First, corporate localization companies strategically choosing local talent over expensive expats for that market edge.
Right. And second.
Personal and economic repatriation, driven by those soaring living costs abroad and the diminished financial incentives, especially with the weaker yen.
It's a profound shift. It really challenges how we've thought about Japanese global engagement for decades.
It does, and it raises a fascinating question for the future. If companies keep favoring deep local knowledge and maybe shorter trips over long-term expat leaders, particularly in dynamic regions like Southeast Asia,
What happens then?
well, what happens to that crucial cultural exchange? The soft diplomacy, the deep person-to-person understanding that comes from living somewhere long-term. If that traditional expat model fades further, what fills that gap?
Hmm. That's definitely something to think about. How this demographic story continues to unfold and what it means for the future of international careers and cultural connections in the region.